Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuca. Thanks so much for being here Monday, August 18th. Hope y'all are doing well. Hopefully you got more sleep than I did last night. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, in case you missed it, traded Luke Fortner, center, former third-round pick by the Jaguars in 2022, to the New Orleans Saints for defensive tackle Khalen Saunders, who was also a third-round pick, but back in 2019. So we're going to break down this trade. I did go back now and watch some more Khalen Saunders tape. As I told y'all yesterday, last night, I didn't have like a lot of analysis to offer in terms of like who he is as a player. But we're going to get into all that right now. And I really appreciate y'all being here. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear. So look, Khalen Saunders, Luke Fortner. There's different layers to dive into here. I expected this to be for like a 6th or 7th round pick, but it was just appears it was just a player for player swap. Khalen Saunders, defensive tackle, for interior offensive lineman. You know, Luke Fortner has primarily just played center throughout his career for the Jaguars. He has been cross-training a bit at center and guard, but, you know, primarily a center. Maybe somebody who could play some guard. I honestly think Luke Fortner probably was not going to make the Jaguars roster, and they found value. And this was like the same thing with Christian Kirk. Obviously, Christian Kirk was not traded, obviously Luke Fortner was not traded within the division, but the Jaguars were going to release Christian Kirk, and instead of releasing him, they got some trade value for him, right? I think that this is exactly how the Jaguars were viewing the Luke Fortner situation. He wasn't going to make the roster, so they made a trade for a player who they think probably does have a chance to make the roster. And I've seen some really, really strong takes about this trade. I don't think that it needs to be like this, let's frickin' crown James Gladstone because he traded Luke Fortner for Khalen Saunders. I do think the fact that the Jaguars were able to trade Luke Fortner is a little bit surprising. It's a little bit impressive. I got to give him credit for that. But I don't want folks to think that the Jaguars have this guy coming in and Khalen Saunders who is like a difference-making interior defensive lineman. I don't think that's what happened here. I think if the Saints felt that Khalen Saunders was a difference maker on the interior, they would not have traded him for Luke Fortner, right? That's my strong opinion on this. I went back and watched several games. I watched his preseason tape from week 1. I watched a couple games from last year. Khalen Saunders is big. He's not super tall, right? But he's heavy. He's strong. He's a good athlete for his size. I think he can be passable on the field for you in most situations. He can line up over the center. He can line up over a guard, shade inside against a guard. He's not really bringing a whole lot consistently. There are moments where he pops and flashes and makes a brilliant play because he is, again, a very good athlete at his size. Like his 40-yard dash of 5:01 is not like crazy, but 5:01 at, you know, close to 330 pounds is impressive. Like he's got some juice to his movements. Overall, I don't think he's going to come in and be this huge difference maker. So temper the expectations a little bit. But what is impressive to me for James Gladstone and the Jacksonville Jaguars with this trade is they sent someone who probably wasn't going to make their team and got in return someone who they think can probably make their team. I don't see like a super, super clear path to the roster unless we're talking about Mason Smith and Eric Armstead not being ready for week 1. Not the same type of players, right? As Smith and Armstead are more of like, they can be 3-down guys that have the talent to impact the run and the pass. Khalen Saunders, again, is more of just like, you know, you can get him in there, you can do some decent things, you can not, you know, blow a ton of assignments and cost you. Like he can just kind of do his job a little bit. I do think, though, Devon Hamilton is a much better player in that type of mold. I also think that Austin Johnson is a better player in that type of mold. And Austin Johnson, the Jaguars were able to pick up off the street. Watching both of their tape, I just think Austin Johnson's a better player. I think that he executes at a higher level more consistently and helps out his teammates around him more consistently. That's my personal opinion. Hopefully Colin comes in here and does a great job. Now, could he be better than Jordan Jefferson? Which this Jaguars regime has no ties to Jordan Jefferson. Tyler Lacey, not really the same type of player. This is an interesting one because, again, not surprised that the Jaguars wanted to trade Luke Fortner if they could trade Luke Fortner. But Khalen Saunders is an interesting fit for sure. He's going to come in, and I know some folks on the Twitter have talked about the Jaguars got a starting defensive tackle. And I mean, yeah, he started games, but I don't think you look at him in relation to the rest of the Jaguars defensive front and say he's definitely a starter. Again, unless you have Armstead and Smith not available for the start of the season. And even then, I personally would rather have Austin Johnson and Devon Hamilton on the field in running downs, and then, kick in Trayvon or Smoot or Ogba on the interior to pass rush. That's how I would be looking to play it. But I think he can be good depth for the Jaguars. I think he can be a good rotational player. You need to have a good rotation up front. I think that he can come in and provide some decent rotational snaps for the Jags. He's a good locker room guy, a good person to have in your community. He was part of a leadership group in New Orleans in that locker room. He also put together a LGBTQ football camp. I know not everybody's going to be fired up about that, but somebody who's trying to do things in his community, somebody who's trying to lead within from the football team. And he feels like football is a safe space. It's football is for everyone is kind of his mantra. So I can respect that for sure. No question about it. The leadership that he's going to bring, being intangibly rich. I think the Jaguars are going to view him as an intangibly rich player. Liam Cohen did coach against him twice last year, Buccaneers versus Saints, and then obviously coached against him yesterday as well. So to me, this is a move where you bring in someone you think can compete for your roster. You ship out somebody who you don't think has a chance to make your roster. Is that a good trade? I think so. That's pretty much where I'm at with this one. And again, intangibly rich, good guy, kind of very well liked everywhere he's been. Just I wouldn't get your expectations too high for this one. I've seen some things that I don't think are quite representing at least what I've seen on tape from Colin, who to me again is just someone who's going to be competing for rotational depth with the Jaguars defensive front versus coming in to be a legitimate starter. I don't see that. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.